And it's a pleasure to rise today to contribute to this matter of public importance submitted by the member for Gembrook. It's been a great week post-budget, certainly out in Melton talking to the locals about the Andrews Labor Government is delivering for our electorate. The community is over the moon, and to see that the Melton Hospital is being fully funded in this year's budget, it's been fantastic and well received by our constituents. So everywhere I go, this is what people want to talk to me about, and that is about the funding for the hospital and when we'll start building the hospital. And I'm taking every opportunity to spread that fantastic news. So the Labor Party, which office is already sick of me trying to get put on the list for speaking opportunities to talk about the hospital time and time again, and I'll continue to do that. So I want to start off by my contribution today by thanking the member for Gembrook for giving me a free kick. I'll grab the opportunity to talk about the new Melton Hospital every chance I get, and you can be assured I'll continue to do that until we deliver that hospital and we open it up in the near future. This budget delivers for Melton and the West by delivering massive health infrastructure projects, and this will be the biggest infrastructure project in Melton ever. It also delivers new schools and massive education infrastructure upgrades, which is just as well because the member for Gembrook might need some education because he must have trouble with reading and comprehension. The member for Gembrook in this MPI claims that the Andrews Labor Government failed to turn the sod to start the Melton Hospital it promised in 2018. Now let's talk about those promises, shall we? Let's use this opportunity for what our brilliant educators would call a teachable moment. I was, of course, the candidate for the seat of Melton in 2018 with only 3 weeks' notice. I got, as some said earlier today, parachuted in with only 3 weeks' notice. So it was interesting. So I had to pack the caravan up and come down to Melton and campaign for 3 weeks. And of course, the number one thing that everyone wanted to talk about with me was the Andrews Labor Government's commitment to the Melton Hospital. And do you know what that commitment was? The brilliant, compassionate member for Altona, who was the Minister for Health at the time, came out to Melton to announce that a re-elected Labor government would commit $2.3 million to develop the Melton Hospital business case. And it might come as a surprise to those opposite, but we won that election in a landslide. And of course, why did that happen? Because the Victorian public know that the Andrews Labor government delivers on its commitments. And of course, the next year, the Treasurer delivered the $2.4 million in the budget.
I just asked the member for Melton pause. So the beginning of this MPI was conducted in a fairly good-natured way with little interjection. I hope that continues, otherwise members might be asked to leave the chamber for the duration of the debate. The member for Melton to continue.
Thank you, Speaker. As I said, the very next year the Treasurer delivered the $2.4 million in the budget, which was more than what was promised. And we backed that in further in December 2019 with the announcement that the future Melton Hospital would be managed and operated by Western Health, which was fantastic, a further commitment to Melton and the West that we deliver. The next year, Budget 2020, I was successful in seeking from the Treasurer a further commitment of $75 million to acquire the land for the new hospital to be built on, another delivery on our commitment. In July 2021, the Andrews Labor Government identified land in Cobblebank, which is down south of the new Cobblebank railway station that we've built, and very much an activity centre now, and begun the process to acquire that land, and once again, a delivery on the promise. We backed that up in December 2021 with the notice of acquisition. And of course, all the naysayers, including the opposition leader, were whinging about us not having the land when we already owned it. And I think he had a press conference out there talking about we didn't own the land and he knew that we'd already had. And of course, in 2022, after delivering a brilliant budget, we have the Andrews Labor Government once again delivering for Melton and the West and all of Victoria by putting our money where our mouth is and committing to fully funding a new Melton Hospital. And Speaker, this is a government that delivers, not just for Melton, not just for the West, but for all Victorians. And do you know what else I remember as a candidate in 2018? I remember that the Liberal candidate for Melton and the Coalition had nothing to say about the hospital and had little else to say about Melton at all. Actually, I was surprised they even knew where Melton was. I remember that those opposite had no commitment to building a hospital in 2019 when we delivered $2.4 million. And they were quiet when we announced in December 2019 Western Health would operate it. And of course, we were met with silence in 2021 when the Treasurer delivered the $75 million to acquire the land, and they still hadn't committed to even supporting building a new Melton Hospital. So of course, in December later that year, 2021, the noise of the crickets living in the land in Cobblebank that was acquired by this government was louder than the deafening silence from the opposition about committing to a new Melton Hospital. And when did we actually hear from those opposite? When did they finally commit to supporting a hospital in Melton? Well, Speaker, I hear a media release from the City of Melton dated the 20th of January 2022 that they welcome the news that a Victorian coalition government would build the Melton Hospital if elected. Well, good luck with that. I'm happy to table this document if you wish. Let's look at it. That's right, table it, you reckon. Now, the date, the 20th of January 2022. Guess what? That was 1,177 days since the 2018 election campaign began. And it was 42 days since the acquisition of the land and when it was gazetted. So 42 days after the government acquired the land, the former planning minister, now the opposition leader, who should know better, finally comes out and commits to building a hospital in Melton. Not during 2018 in the election, not all the way through the pandemic when they were criticising our vital healthcare workers, not during a global pandemic when the focus was on health. The shadow health minister was too busy attacking healthcare workers and talking to conspiracy theorists to think that it would be a good time to commit to supporting new health infrastructure. No, of course not. They waited until 42 days after we acquired the land to come out and support this investment. They should have head down to Specsavers because the writing was well and truly on the wall by the time they finally came out and committed to a new hospital. They waited while we got on with the hard work, got on with doing the job, even through a global pandemic before we heard boo from them. They are hypocrites. They pretend to support the West, but they don't. And they never delivered anything for the West except for cuts and closures. The last time they were in office, where was the health investment for the West? Nowhere. What was the biggest health infrastructure project on the go during the Baillieu-Napthine years? It was the Bendigo Hospital that the Labor government started before they even got into office. The leader of the opposition stood on the side of the new Melton Hospital last week crying that they would have built it within 12 months. That's funny because they had jack all to say about it for the first 1,153 days of this term until they found out we had already owned the land. Victorians know that they should be worried when the former planning minister announces that he's going to fast-track something. They know about his bungling of the zoning of Fisherman's Bend to jog their memories. When those opposite say they are suddenly going to do something related to infrastructure means that their mates are up for a big payday and the taxpayers are going to be left wanting. Here we have these Johnny-come-latelys, the failed former planning minister standing in a field with a failure of a shadow health minister that spent more time with the QAnon than nurses and health workers, and on one side, and the Liberal candidate for Melton, right, a failed former backbencher who for the first few weeks of his candidacy still had just another Burwood local on his social media site. Are we to believe they're going to stand up for Melton and the West? Their only Liberal member for Western Metro, has a plan for health. We know what that is, thanks to his social media. The Liberals' health plan, if Mr Finn in the other place has his way, looks like the Handmaid's Tale's Gilead. The people of Melton and the West see through all of the malarkey. They see right through it. It's this Andrews Labor government that has stood up and committed to the people of Melton and the people of the western suburbs. We made promises and have delivered them every step of the way, not like those opposite, suddenly feigning interest at the last minute when they know it's already going to happen. It was my commitment to the people of Melton 3.5 years ago as a former paramedic that I would deliver the hospital in Melton, and that's exactly what we are going to get on and do, and it's now fully funded. The fallacy that gets spouted by some that we haven't delivered for Melton is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And as I said, I've been the member for Melton for 3.5 years, and we have seen more than $1.5 billion invested in the Melton electorate during that time. And this budget, we are seeing not just a new hospital, but land for a new secondary school, rebuilds of Staunton College in Melton, new primary schools, a huge investment right across the electorate of Melton, right into Bacchus Marsh, such as the $10 million aquatic centre that we've contributed to. Well, actually, it'll be a $30 million aquatic centre that we've contributed $10 million to. This new hospital is going to be a fantastic asset and investment for our community. And whilst those opposite are talking about fantasy, let's read what this 2022-2023 budget actually is delivering. And if we go to Chapter 1, page 5 of the State Capital Program, it reads this way. A new hospital will be built in Cobblebank to deliver high-quality care for the people in the western region of Melbourne. It will deliver 24-hour emergency services with over 100 medical and surgical beds, an intensive care unit, maternity and neonatal services, mental health services, ambulatory care and a range of clinical supports. The Melton Hospital will also use new models of care, building upon virtual healthcare and increasing capacity for hospital-in-the-home programs. The new hospital will be designed as an all-electric hospital to remove the need for gas. The all-electric hospital supports the government's climate policy and renewable energy targets. This investment will activate the Cobblebank precinct and stimulate further investment and development in the area to drive employment growth and nearby residential developments to improve housing supply. This initiative includes funding of over $70 million provided in previous budgets to plan, acquire land and deliver early works for a total investment of between $900 million and $1 billion. That's right, $900 million and $1 billion. This is what delivering actually looks like. Not spouting mistruths in an electorate that they would have to search for on Google Maps, but getting on delivering in the budget the vital infrastructure Victoria and the West needs. This new hospital will accommodate almost 130,000 patient presentations each year and almost 60,000 patients to be seen in the emergency department. This is going to be a full-size tertiary hospital that will treat tens and tens of thousands of people out in the Western Corridor and in particular the Melton and surrounding district. This will create more than 700 direct jobs and 1,700 indirect jobs during construction, and it will also provide a new education and training hub for doctors and nurses in Melbourne's West. So we've invested money into planning. That's probably a foreign concept for the former planning minister when he finally came out to Melton. We aren't throwing a project to our mates and let them run riot with the state's credit card like he did at Fisherman's Bend. We are planning and delivering a modern hospital, the first clean electric hospital, and how amazing will that be? Delivering a healthier climate with our health infrastructure, making use of modern technology and emerging practices. It's this Andrews Labor government that is leading the world in medical research, and we have the ability to harness that potential in delivering new and better health outcomes for Victorians. This isn't about slapping up some concrete walls and saying, there you go, there it's built, then walking away. This is about using the resources and the technology available to us, capitalising on Victoria's brilliant healthcare workers, creating a network in the West so that the upgrades at the Bacchus Marsh Hospital, the investments at the Sunshine Hospital, and of course the fantastic new Footscray Hospital, when completed, will link up and deliver for Victorians living in the West the amazing healthcare that they deserve. I will go to, where are we? Just to finish off, I do, on my way into this building every sitting week, I do drive down Ballarat Road in the western suburbs, and it's my old stomping ground. I grew up in the West, I went to school in the West, I played footy in the West, I spent my working life as a paramedic in the West, and I'm a Westie. And I'm proud every time I drive past the side of the new Footscray Hospital to see what once was a car park, not long ago now, is a skyline of cranes delivering new and better healthcare for the West. It's exciting, and that's what this Andrews Labor government does, and that's the commitment that we've made to the new Melton Hospital between $900 million and $1 billion to deliver fantastic healthcare out in the west, and it will be great for my electorate of Melton, for the western suburbs people, and also for all Victorians. Thank you.